I'd like you to imagine your dream life. See the version of you who has what you want to have, feels how you want to feel, and is who you want to be. I'm Brittany Hoops, your hypnotherapist and manifestation coach, and this is the show where I'll teach you to master the full power of your mind, to guide you on your journey towards destination manifestation.
Take a step back for the ones who can't do that.
You're listening to the Destination Manifestation Podcast, helping you to align your conscious and your subconscious mind to manifest a life of your dreams. Hello, welcome back. Here we are. Today, we're going to get to work. All right. Do I sound like one of those aerobic instructors from the 80s? One of those fitness people? Get to work. Because we're tackling a very particular subject, a subject that I get asked about quite often, which is willpower. Okay. So it's early February now, right? Let me ask you, how are your New Year's resolutions holding up? Are they holding up by a thread? Are they holding on by a solid rope? Maybe you can't even remember what they were anymore. I know a few people that way, right? Too. Maybe you ditched them a few weeks ago. It doesn't matter. But there's one core component that's most likely responsible for how successful you are with your goals, whether they're New Year's related or whether there's something else entirely. And it has something to do with willpower. So I had a good friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, text me a few weeks ago, and he asked me, he was like, Brittany, I'm struggling. Candy, sweets, ice cream, they're all calling my name. How do I boost my willpower? And so I want to share with you a very expanded version of what I shared with him. So here are my 5 steps to increase your willpower, okay? And be sure to stick around all the way to the end because I have an exciting announcement that will allow everything that we discuss here today, that we talk about here today, to allow you to apply it even further and put it into action in a really super powerful way. All right, are you ready? So step 1, and I'm going to be a little tricky with you here, so bear with me. Ditch willpower altogether. See, I told you I was going to be tricky. Willpower? No, willpower is such a conscious mind, logical brain concept. It's a concept that was developed that completely negates the other 90% of our brain power, which is our unconscious, our subconscious mind. It's relying on the part of our mind that needs to exert effort to do the things that we would like to be done just automatically. Because automatic processes, that is literally the role of the subconscious mind. It's like if you hired an electrician to paint your house and then you hired a painter to do all the wiring in your home. Like it would not be smart. They're the wrong roles. And it definitely wouldn't be very efficient. Because you see, our brains are made of 10% conscious mind and 90% subconscious mind. So the conscious mind, I was trying to think of how I could explain this to you guys. The conscious mind is sort of like this little nerdy, rule-abiding guy. Or if you want to think of it in female terms, it's like, did you watch that show Parks and Rec? I love Parks and Rec. Leslie Knope. She's the conscious mind. She's the embodiment of conscious mind. Okay? The conscious mind is smart. He or she thinks, and it holds the logical, analytical, linear thinking. And you guessed it, willpower. The conscious mind, she ruminates, she pushes, she problem solves. And don't get me wrong, the conscious mind, she's amazing, right? Leslie Knope, she can do anything. She distinguishes us from other living life forms on planet Earth, the conscious mind, she does. But she's also the reason why we're stressed. Because she's such a hard worker. Sometimes she just won't even shut up when we try to fall asleep at night, right? The conscious mind, always going, always thinking, always talking. Even though she's the star of our waking hours and our awareness, she's only 10% of our brains. So who is the other 90% of our brain then? Do you like how I'm personifying the mind here? Just keep going with me, okay? It'll make sense. The other 90% of our mind is the subconscious mind. And I'd like to think of her as like a goddess, like this like beautiful, powerful feminine goddess, or even like this old hippie dude. Okay. And there's kind of two different archetypes here, right? She holds our beliefs, our emotions, our imagination, our automatic bodily functions, our memories. The fact that we don't have to think to beat our own heart or breathe our own lungs. She's in charge of it all. It just happens so naturally for her, right? But the subconscious mind just goes with the flow. But this goddess, this old hippie dude, he or she has some shadows too, right? She holds the things that we might suppress, such as pain, fear, and conflict. And even though she's the wise and ancient part of our brains, she's way more important than most of society gives her credit for. Isn't that always the case? The events in our subconscious mind guide our overall behavior, our motives, and our decisions. She's persuasive without even having to be, without even realizing it. So now I want you to imagine this little nerdy conscious mind dude or this Leslie Knope gal, right? And you got this hippy dippy subconscious mind dude or the goddess. And let's just picture that they have to work on a group project together. Now, as you can imagine, the conscious mind, the dweeb that he is, the Leslie Knope control freak that she is, they do all the work for this project, right? She doesn't want that old hippie or that goddess screwing up her project. I mean, that is literally the plot of like most Parks and Rec episodes, is that Leslie Knope doesn't want help. And so she does things herself, and there ends up being some problem that happens because she can't control every single factor that ever happens. Like, that is the show. And so after she completes all that work, all that learning, the subconscious mind just kind of slaps her name on it and turns in the project, right? It's just how oftentimes once we learn something consciously, it takes our conscious effort to learn something, then the subconscious mind takes over that learned behavior. Just like how you kind of don't have to think about riding a bike anymore or driving your car. It just happens automatically. The subconscious mind didn't learn that initially. It was all the conscious mind that learned it, but the subconscious mind took over. And because the subconscious mind is so convincing, is so magnetic in that sense. Once something is accepted by the subconscious mind, we, the human, begin to behave as if what we learned was true. We don't even think about it. Or at least we don't realize it because it's subconscious. Subconscious. Sub meaning below our conscious awareness. So, as you can imagine, the conscious mind, that little control freak that she is, likes to be in charge. And since she's so book smart and she's so capable, she likes to take the lead. But if she's not paying attention, perhaps she's in a state of shock, or maybe she's too young and she hasn't fully formed yet, as is the case when we're a child, new ideas can establish themselves in the subconscious mind and stay there, and we might not even be aware of them. Yeah. The subconscious mind just likes to sneak in some patterns and some beliefs while the conscious mind is busy and isn't looking. Then we play these ideas over and over and over again in the present moment. And the conscious mind is like, what is that? Why am I doing that? I don't understand. I thought I had all it planned. What's happening? Why isn't this working? Blah, 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 right? The conscious mind is freaking out because it doesn't understand what's happening. It thought that it had everything under control, but it doesn't. While the hippy-dippy subconscious mind or the goddess subconscious mind is kind of sitting back and watching and sort of snickering. Now, I will admit, I have taken quite a few creative liberties here in describing the conscious and the subconscious mind. But the point is, ease, flow, automation, that's all the subconscious mind's jam. The conscious mind is smart. She can reason, but she has to study a lot. It doesn't necessarily come naturally to her. She's a bookworm. But the subconscious mind is like that girl or that guy in school. I'm sure you knew them. I was not one of them. But that person in school that never had to study and yet always got all A's. And you're just like, why? How? I studied for this test for 10 hours and you just woke up one day and waltzed in late and got an A. Like, it isn't fair when I had to try so hard and you just waltz in with zero effort. And that's why willpower just isn't our most powerful source of fuel and motivation when it comes to our dreams and our manifestations. Sure, willpower can work for a while, but it's easily depleted. That's one of the reasons why after a few weeks in January, everybody's like, how's your New Year's resolutions going? And most of us are like, because willpower ran out. It's a universal understanding of how our brain works. Willpower is pushing and forcing, and it's using that mental muscle. But all muscles with enough reps eventually tire out and need a break. And it's usually when we rely on our willpower to go after our goals and our manifestations, that's when we tire out and we stop. And so let's just take a moment to be glad that the conscious mind is not in charge of all the functions of our body. Because could you imagine if it required conscious mind willpower to beat our own hearts? Okay, we'd be in trouble. We beat our hearts until the third week in January, and then we'd be dead because the conscious mind would run out of stamina, would run out of willpower. So if we recognize willpower for what it is, that would be fine. We would tire out and then we would rest. We would recoup. We would begin again. Even gym rats know that you need some downtime for recovery, right? You can't work every single muscle group every single day. You need to allow your body to recover. But oftentimes we, as goal setters and as manifestors, we don't do that. We take it on as our own personal failing. We make our stopping mean something that it was never actually intended to mean. We start thinking thoughts like, well, my willpower ran out, so that must mean I'm not cut out for this. Or we beat ourselves up thinking that we should be this nonstop machine. And we think, well, okay, since I messed up here, I'm just going to quit altogether. And it starts this vicious cycle. So step one, to increase your willpower, step one is simply don't. See willpower for what it is. It's one of the many different power sources that you have at your disposal, but it isn't the strongest. It's naturally designed to be depleted. So step two is see it for what it is. If you're going to rely on willpower, you're going to have to bake in some recoup and recovery time. That's just natural. Just like if you were working out your muscles, you wouldn't work out the same muscle group every single day for 1,000,000 reps. That's just not how muscles work. You would injure yourself if you did that. That's too much fatigue and too much strain on that particular muscle group. So you have to do the same with your mental muscles as well. That's why deprivation just simply doesn't work when it comes to dieting and losing weight. Deprivation is assuming that you'll never tire out your willpower muscle, which is simply not possible. If you plan on utilizing your conscious mind willpower, you gotta bake that recovery in. Plan for your rest and recovery. Making that okay. I can't tell you how often I work with clients where the idea of rest is not okay in their minds. And yet they're fighting what is. They're fighting reality. They're fighting their own biology of how their willpower and that aspect of their conscious mind works. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you if you need to rest. How can we start to see willpower for what it truly is, rather than take our rest and recovery on as a personal failing? So step 3 for increasing willpower, or really I'm going to update this, right? Because we know what willpower is. I should say step 3 for improving your ability to stick with your goals, no matter what you use, is to in fact tap into a source that is stronger than willpower ever could be. And that's the subconscious mind. I think it's helpful to use the example of weight loss and exercise and healthy eating because I feel like that's an area where we're talking about the concept of willpower the most, right? It comes up a lot. We can understand it. And this is where hypnosis comes in. So hypnosis is the language, speaking the language of the subconscious mind. So you remember that goddess of the subconscious mind? You remember that hippy dippy dude of the subconscious mind? She's actually super powerful. She doesn't try all that hard. She just does. It's like Tai Chi. Have you ever tried Tai Chi? I took a Tai Chi class in college. I don't know what that had to do with theater and acting school, but we took Tai Chi. Okay. And it's so beautiful because it's a martial art, I believe. I don't know if that's the correct terminology for it, but the movements have so much flow and have so much grace to them. It's almost like a dance, but they pack a punch. They're powerful. And that's just like the subconscious mind. So why not utilize this power to help us stick with our goals? So step 3 is to utilize the subconscious mind to create new programs, new patterns, so that the subconscious mind executes them naturally and automatically. Isn't that the goal? Is it to feel like eating healthy is so natural to you? It's just so automatic to you. That's the goal, right? Whenever we're trying to lose weight or make a healthy change in our lives. It's to get to this place where it's just like, well, of course. I love that. That well, of course mantra is my magic manifestation phrase. So please borrow it. It's the phrase and the feeling that I've noticed that I have most of all right before a big manifestation comes into my life. Right before I create this big manifestation. I felt it right when I got Big Brother. I felt it right when I paid off $200,000 worth of student loans. All my big manifestations, I felt this well, of course feeling. It's where you reach that place of belief that is so strong in your manifestation that you think, well, of course it's going to happen. You might be excited, but you're not surprised. You're so certain, in fact, that it doesn't even really feel like a big deal anymore. You're that certain. So let's apply this concept to instances where maybe you formerly used willpower. So let's take snacking on sweets, the example that my friend had texted me about, right? My suggestion to him was, obviously, practice hypnosis. Because hypnosis relaxes your subconscious mind to a state where it's open and receptive. So I want you to imagine this hippy-dippy subconscious mind dude or this goddess subconscious mind, right? She's an in-demand woman. She's constantly surrounded by these bodyguards, or in the brain, we would call it the RAS or the reticular activating system. And so it's impossible to get a word with this goddess. It's impossible to get her alone. She's constantly surrounded and protected. And so when you try to talk to the subconscious mind, she's like, have your people call my people, right? Forget about it. But imagine that you decide to slip $100 to one of those bodyguards. Okay? You're bribing. And you just say, hey, give me 30 minutes with the subconscious mind. I just want to have a word with her. And so the bodyguards oblige. And for 30 minutes, you finally have the subconscious mind's undivided attention. You both are there. You're both relaxed. You're both at ease. She's attentive and listening. And so anything you offer her, any thought you think during this time, she takes it and the thought goes straight in. She hears you and she agrees. And so you suggest to her during this hypnosis meeting, you say, hey, you actually love healthy foods. Did you know that? Sweets? Oh yeah, sweets, they just taste nasty to you. They're much too sweet. In fact, all those sweets over there, you see, there are bugs crawling on them. And as an aside, just why I'm giving this example, we would call this aversion therapy in hypnotherapy, right? It's highly effective for training your subconscious taste buds to reject sweets and no longer crave sweets. And so the subconscious mind, this goddess that she is, she's like, oh my goodness, she's listening. She's like, wow, really? Thanks for telling me. I'm not going to eat those sweets anymore. I'm going to avoid sweets. Yes. And so when that hypnosis session, this conversation with your subconscious mind, when that time is up and the bodyguards come back, they kick you and your hypnotherapist out of that meeting. And then it's just you and Leslie Knope again. Okay. It's just you and the nerdy subconscious mind there again. But something's different now. The subconscious mind has listened to you. You're no longer craving sweets as much. And so you decide to meet with her again and again. And she remembers more and more of what you tell her. And you build a relationship and trust with her. You train her during these sessions and she remembers and she puts your advice into action more and more. And so what feels different about this approach, as opposed to putting all the efforts on the shoulders of the conscious mind, is that the subconscious mind just makes it look so easy and effortless. She's the queen of your automatic processes. So rejecting sweets becomes just so automatic to you. So it doesn't require any effort or mental muscle or strain because you're using the power of your new subconscious mind patterns instead of conscious mind willpower. Well, of course I don't eat sweets. It's just not an option anymore, which leads me to step 4. It's all about harnessing the power of non-choice. So what do I mean by that? One of the strongest ways to stick with your goals, to increase your ability to do what you say you're going to do and to do what you want to do, is to simply make it a non-negotiable. And the best way to do that is to eliminate choice. So here's an example that I like to give my weight loss clients, okay? Sometimes when we're wanting to lose weight, the hardest part of that process can feel like you always have to be on, right? That you always have to be thinking about what food choice am I going to make next? What am I going to eat for breakfast? What am I going to eat for lunch? Oh, I'm at this restaurant. What do I order off the restaurant menu? Oh, I really want that other thing, but I should do this. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. Will I exercise today? What do I order at dinner? There's these constant intentional choices and decisions that you feel you have to make, and they just keep your brain preoccupied and they take so much mental effort, right? So much conscious mind willpower is dedicated to making those choices. But the truth is, all these options and choices, they can just exist. The fact that these options and choices exist have zero to do with your sense of struggle or your mental effort. All those sweets, they can just sit on the shelf at the grocery store. The fact that they exist in the world doesn't hurt or impact you. It's your entertaining of these many choices that creates the strain and the effort. Not the fact that they exist, but the fact that you entertain them. Do you see the difference there? The options can just be. It's the act of having to choose that can make weight loss feel hard, effortful, and draining. So in order to allow weight loss to feel easy and natural to you, you just have to narrow your choices. So here's an example that will probably resonate with most of us, okay? And if it doesn't resonate for you, I suggest that you check out the show notes and the links that I'm going to provide there for some addiction resources, okay? So just go with me here. For example, there is a drug named cocaine. I'm sure you've heard of it. Okay. Cocaine exists. It's a drug. It's a substance. It exists out there in the world. So they say. I've never come in contact with it, but supposedly it's a thing. Many people hardly give cocaine a second thought each and every day because they've simply eliminated it as an option. It was never even an option to begin with. And so it's easy for them to reject cocaine. It's effortless to reject cocaine because they give it zero thought. It's the easiest thing in the world for someone, say like me, who's never had cocaine, has never been interested in it, to not have it today. Like that's not something I worry about. I don't even think about it. It's not an option. It's super easy for me. Yay, go me. No cocaine. Here's another example, okay? You could technically drink glue if you wanted. Like it's a physical option out there. It's a liquid substance that exists in the world. And if you squirt it in your mouth, it would go down your throat and it would be awful. Okay. I do not endorse or recommend it. And I bet, except for maybe like that one time in kindergarten, you've hardly considered doing such a thing because you know that it would be harmful to your health. And therefore you've eliminated it as an option. Pigs can fly, but I rarely ever think about it. You get what I'm saying? It rarely concerns me very much because it's been eliminated as an option. Therefore, it receives zero of my thought. Now, I'm sure all of you guys know or have someone in your life who makes healthy food and exercise choices with ease. Okay, maybe it's an old friend, maybe it's an acquaintance, maybe even it's a popular movie star or an influencer that you follow online. But you see them, they order off the restaurant menu with ease, they crave the salads, the fruits, the vegetables that are offered. I had an ex who was like this. He didn't enjoy eating sweets. And once I asked him why, because like, that just blew my mind. Like, how do you not like chocolate? Like I physically did not understand it. Like, how could someone not like sweets? And he said the reason was he just never had them growing up. It was just the well, of course, option for them. Nothing was off limits. He could have it if he wanted it. It's just, why would you want to? And therefore, those healthy options became the only choices. To entertain any option outside of these healthy foods and lifestyle choices would be the equivalent of drinking glue to them. And as an aside, I will say this, it truly becomes that way. I know it's one thing to hear this and you're like, yeah, right, Brittany, but I've experienced this. Once you give up sugar, if that's a goal of yours to give up sugar, I've done this many times. In fact, I've only had sugar maybe less than a handful of times since 2022. You really do stop having the cravings. It really does become too sweet once your taste buds acclimate. And so to make ceasing to eat sweets or to work out consistently or any other goal or action of yours that you wish to have more willpower for, to make that feel easy and more natural to you, you have to decide to simply eliminate any other option. And by doing it, it's an effective use of your energy. That's why we do it. That's why it just feels so easy to the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is a master of effectively utilizing energy. I mean, it has to be, right? It keeps your heart beating all day long, 24/7. You don't ever get tired and stop beating that heart for a bit. It has to be good at managing that energy. So take this example. A light switch, you have a light switch in your home. It can be turned on and it can be turned off, right? When the light switch is turned on, it consumes that electricity. And you have to remember to turn the light on, and things can become very dark when that light is off, right? And so when you find yourself in the darkness of eating sweets, of not working out, of not doing those actions that are bringing you closer to your manifestations, you have to find and expend that energy to turn on the light of doing those things that benefit you. And keeping that light on when it has the option of being turned off, that costs you energy, right? You watch your mental electric bill just soar. It's costing you to have that option. That's the true cost of willpower. Whereas, for example, if you take the ocean waves, for instance, those waves, they just are, right? The waves, they roll gently, easily in and out, day in and day out. It's just a 24/7 process, right? The waves continually lap against the shore. Just like the automatic beating of your heart, zero opportunity to even be turned on or off. They just are. The power generated by these waves can't even begin to compete with the power that goes through one measly light switch. These waves, they're just pure, effortless, continual energy and power. So much energy that it feels just natural. Requires zero thought or effort or choice at all for those waves to roll in and out. You'd be unable to turn the waves off even if you tried. There's only simply one choice. Just waves, just continual energy, so much energy that it feels like zero effort or energy at all. Just like these new habits that you create here within the subconscious mind. The light, the dark, it can just all exist. It can all be. Zero choices need to be made. Just doing what is required to move your goal closer and closer and closer. Letting go of entertaining any other option than that. Letting the momentum of the ways, the automatic processes of the subconscious mind to carry you easily, effortlessly towards your manifestation, towards your goal. All other options, all other things that you could or could not do, they can just be. They can exist, but you no longer entertain them or pay them any attention. All the candy can just be there on the shelf. And by no longer entertaining them, you no longer suffer or strain. Because decisions are easy when there's only one choice, only what you want. That's one of the reasons why Steve Jobs wore black turtlenecks every single day. It eliminated unnecessary choices. Less choices equals less strain equals less mental power used. And you can apply this to your goals. One choice, doing the action required to manifest your dreams. Done. So let's move to step 5, our final step here. Step 5 is to begin to shift your identity. Okay. And this somewhat comes back to the story that I just told you about my ex and how he grew up with no sweets in the house. It was part of how he saw himself. He was the kind of person who ate healthy and who didn't eat sweets. That's who he was. It was part of his identity. Now, it's easy to create an identity when one has been given to you as a child, right? We're born into this world and we don't know who we are. We're just spirit in these body things. And we're just like, what is this? Who am I? We're these little subconscious sponges soaking up what is around us. And oftentimes our parents or our caregivers or even society starts to tell us who we are. And that can be helpful, but it can also be hurtful. And it's only ever hurtful if A, we're told that we're someone who we don't want to be, and B, we remain unconscious to that fact. Because as soon as we become conscious to it and we decide who we want to be instead, we can change it. Just like Dr. Joe Dispenza often says, our personality becomes our personal reality. And our personality is comprised of the thoughts we consistently think, the emotions we consistently feel, and the actions we consistently take. So if we want to change our identity, change our personality, which in essence will change or manifest the reality in which we want to live, we have to change our thoughts, emotions, and actions. This is where having someone that is an expander can be helpful. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the term expander, an expander is someone in your life, either it's somebody directly that you know or who you're aware of, who lives out those qualities that you want to live. They're an example of that personality. They're an example of that identity that you want to adopt. Who currently has the identity when it comes to this goal of yours that you want to have? Someone who's successful in this area. So let's say if you wanted to give up sweets once and for all, you might want to spend time with someone who just doesn't even contemplate sweets. And you can ask them, or you could even infer for yourself, what do they think? When they feel tired at night, what do they think? What do they do? If they aren't grabbing for that pint of ice cream, what are they doing instead? Learn from them. How are they feeling? What do they think about sweets? If I ask them their opinion on sweets, what do they say? How do they order food at restaurants? What goes through their mind as their eyes are scanning that menu? What goes through their mind when it's time to order? What do they think when they feel tired and they haven't worked out yet? What's the thought that goes through their head? Seriously, the only thing that separates their results and your results are a difference in your thoughts, your emotions, and then your actions. And the key word here is the consistent thoughts, emotions, and actions. And again, it always comes back to the subconscious mind, right? Hypnosis is how we build up that consistency. It's how we create new, strengthened synaptic connections so that these practice thoughts become the automatic thoughts. Just like that meeting that you had with the subconscious mind where you bribed the bodyguards to allow you to develop that consistency. Because when those thoughts become automatic, that's when you think them day in and day out, and you feel those emotions day in and day out, and then you do those actions. Or in the case of not eating sugar, it's you don't do those detrimental actions day in and day out. And all of a sudden, you just realize it's just who you are. It's how you see yourself. And it might even take your friends and your family a longer period of time to update their concept of you. So just be warned of that. Just be aware of that. That's okay. But that's how you change. That's how you grow. That's how you self-direct and self-create your own identity. So let's recap here, okay? Step 1, ditch willpower altogether. or at least step 2, see willpower for what it is. Just one of the many different motivational sources within your mind. Step 3 is to tap into a source that's greater than willpower, which is the subconscious mind through hypnosis. Step 4 is to harness the power of non-choice. And step 5, shift your identity. That's how you stick with your goals, which is the purpose of willpower anyways. So I just want to thank you, travelers, for joining us here today on this journey towards destination manifestation. You are absolutely incredible, and I can't wait to see what you do with all this knowledge. One other thing that I want you to do after listening to this episode is this. Go to the show notes for this episode and book a manifestation mindset discovery call. So this is something new that I've started, okay? You haven't heard me talk about this because I haven't done it. I'm now offering free consultation calls. This process, everything that we just talked about, these 5 steps, this process of getting yourself to take those actions that you want to take and achieve your goals, it's just that. It's a process. It's a journey. And if you look around at all the successful people, okay, in our world, whether they be athletes or businessmen and women or, actresses or whatever it might be, right? All those successful people, and you wonder how they got there? Like, don't be fooled. They had help, okay? In fact, they like to make it look like it's natural, but they had help. All the most successful people have coaches, mentors, or a team behind them that makes what they do look so effortless for them. And I can tell you, after 16 years of studying this manifestation process myself, of breaking down each step, I've experienced hundreds of times, as well as the hundreds of my one-on-one clients and their manifestations that we've created together. I started to notice some key patterns. And that is why I've created a brand new hypnotherapy and coaching program. Yes! This is the first time I'm talking about it here on the podcast, but it is called The Journey. It's your journey to destination manifestation, and it's a 6-week roadmap that will help transform your mindset, create a life of freedom and fulfillment, and manifest your deepest desires. Isn't that insane? I'm so freaking excited for this program, guys. The first cohort, which I will say is almost sold out by word of mouth alone. Like, I literally can't believe it. I haven't done any marketing for it, and it's already 80% full. But this first group, it's going to start the week of February 19th. So now that you know better now, and you know that willpower just simply isn't cutting it, but you still deeply desire a way to tap in to those other mindset stores within you so that you can find a greater sense of freedom, this program is for you. Maybe you want freedom from excess weight, or freedom from disease or negative health conditions, or freedom to do what you want to do for work, or to express and receive love from your soulmate, whatever it might be. Freedom is something that is created. It's created by our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions. And so let me show you the blueprint that you can use so that both your conscious and your subconscious mind are on board to help you get there. This is the focus of the program, and I want you to benefit from it. So be sure to go to the show notes and click that link to book a manifestation mindset discovery call now. All music on this podcast is by A Cubed. And remember, all the other options that are not your goal, it's okay. They can just be. The difference between you and future you is that future you didn't entertain those options. Future you kept going. And that's how future you adopted the identity of someone who's achieved their dreams. I'll catch you next time.